I wonder if they'll have a word as they go through. Completely ignored each other, which is the advantage of doing stuff on the radio. You can't hear, the rivals can't hear both sides of a conversation. The Delaplace has just let... Did he let his teammate in front of him? No, no, no. They are rolling through and off as opposed to anyone trying to do any less work. Delaplace has a fairly good record in this race. Never finished, well, 2016 he was 32nd, which is his, sorry, my mistake. He was way, way, way down in 2009. But ever since then, 32nd is his lowest place, and he's been in the top 10 4 or 5 times, including his win back in 2011. So this is a race that suits him, that he likes very much, which is why I'm intrigued to see him up the road. Not the youngest rider in the bunch anymore, 34. So our start list then, got 4. Teams, and they could each bring 7 riders along for the ride, but we don't have full teams, 14 full teams. We started this morning with 84 riders. We've got 4 world teams, as they're called: Groupama FDJ, Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale, Arkea B&B Hotels, and Cofidis are the world teams that have turned up here. As you'll have noted, they're all French teams, all French, because this is, as I explained, a French Cup race. Only 2 pro teams, the second division of team. There are only 2 of those here today, and that is Total Energy, who are very obvious on the front of the bunch, and Lotto Destiny, who are the team of last year's winner, Arnaud Delis. And then we have 8 continental teams. That's the, if you don't know, that's the 3rd tier of team, of international team. We have Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93, Van Riesel Roubaix, Medar Pro Cycling, who are Algerian, Novapur Speed Bike, Speed United, Nice Metropole, Côte d'Azur, CIC Nantes Atlantique, and My Velo are the other teams in the bunch. And some interesting additions, as I explained earlier. Madar Pro Cycling, they're Algerian, and they have amongst their number the current and really quite successful national champion from Algeria. That's Azzedine Lagab. Look for him. He'll be in a pretty distinctive white jersey with the Algerian flag across the middle, the green and red with the crescent and star across the back. He's won the national time trial champion 10 times. He's won their championships, and is a 4-time road champion as well. Got a few GC wins to his name as well, but not recently. The Novapur Speed Bike team are another interesting addition. They're from North Macedonia. have a couple of good quality Greek riders amongst their number on the start list here today. The X-Speed United team is from London, Ontario in Canada, though one of their riders was born in London, England, and that's Red Walters, who is the current Grenadian road race champion. Here's an interesting little story I found out about him. He was racing in the UK, but is from Grenadian parents. And I believe he still lives in the UK, and he raced for a couple of UK domestic teams and then chose Grenadian nationality. But he also rode with the Hagens Bermans Axion team, which is one of the world's best and most accomplished development teams, as you may well know. Managed to compete in a couple of races against Remco Evenepoel a few years back, which is for a relatively low-level racer is an accomplishment in itself. And then, of course, you've got the Nice Métropole Côte d'Azur team and the CICU Nantes Atlantique team. They're both French continental teams. And the final team is from Germany, the MyVelo Pro Cycling team. For those of you at all interested in the women's side of the sport, and if not, why not? The X-Speed United team, the Canadian team, their sports director is Mia Radetic, who is a Croatian ex-professional rider. She was national champion on the road and time trial many times, and rode up until 2020 for BTC City Ljubljana, and then Kyrgyz Metla Pro Cycling team, and now is directing a team of men, which I think is a good thing. If you've got the skills, who cares? Through the feed zone for the obligatory tights filled with ice, because it, as I have explained a number of times, is proper hot out there today. Yeah, current weather 1.4 degrees.
Derrière lui, c'est Ryan Colawat, touche.
So the next intermediate sprint comes up on the 6th passage of the finish line, and that comes up with 75.3 kilometres to go. So that will be, bear in mind we're looking at a 12-kilometre lap. It'll be next time round. And then not long after that we have the, that's the final intermediate sprint, by the way. And then not long after that we have the final classified climb of Pigeonnière, which comes with 69.5 kilometres to go. And there is obviously, if you've got classified climbs and you've got intermediate sprints, you've got competitions that go with them. And the first across the line scores 5 points, second 3, and third across the line scores 1 point in these classifications. A little bit of a move, was it there, from Delbove? I don't think so. Just getting out the saddle, closing that gap, making sure he doesn't drop. A little bit on the wind here. So this it's like a bow tie, this circuit, if you like. It's shaped a bit like a bow tie. Through the finish line you head directly east, then turn kind of northwest, then southwest, and then northwest, then south and east again to cross the line. Now some of these fields, and you'll see that the final really narrow stretch that comes into the finish straight is not only narrow but extremely exposed. And if those winds get up much more, they might have a little effect on how the race is run. However, the thing that is likely to affect how the final plays out is the headwind in the finish straight. You're going to have to be very, very, very careful about when you start your sprint. Otherwise, you're just going to get stranded. You're just going to get run out of legs, and people are going to swamp you. So you've got to be really careful, and you've got to time that sprint to absolute perfection. Be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think anything will happen for the intermediates, but as the race comes to its final 5 or 10 kilometers, it'll be interesting to see how teams approach this and whether or not they have to keep a number of riders together for their sprinter to take his chance, or whether or not there are some solo riders who are just trying to surf the wheel and take the sprint. But that's soon to come in 84 kilometers time. Look forward to that. Ooh, a little bit of a swerve there from the Lotto rider. Someone getting a little bit too close to the right, to the side of the road there. Direct Energie still taking on the responsibility of chasing this down, as you would expect. They're the highest level team who don't have a rider in the break other than Cofidis, who are really nowhere to be seen in this race, with the Coquard being dropped. Break Rollin at the back there, just 20 years old, and he's been promoted for the day essentially from the from Groupama FDJ's Continental Development Team. So he's been moved up, and he's had a pretty good year. He won the Course de la Paix Grand Prix Jezinski. He won that earlier in the year, which is a Slovakian race. Taking a stage, winning that from a three-man sprint. And he's had a pretty good year. He was third on a stage at the Val d'Aosta race, which is an under-23 race. Sixth on a stage of the Tour du Rwanda. Fifth in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, under 23. There is one very, very accomplished rider just going through there, dropping his head, making himself a bit aero so he doesn't have to work harder to close that gap. He's off to ride the Tour de l'Avenir next week, which is essentially the under 23 Tour de France. Born in Rennes, which isn't far from here at all, so kind of on home roads. He'll know where he's going. He may well have taken a trip down and had a little ride round. Have a look down. It's certainly not too far away.
Voilà Pascal Doudou, notre correspondant de
You may be able to hear in the background the roadside commentary. And those of you who managed to get along to a stage of the Tour de France maybe 5-8 years ago will recognise that voice. Daniel Mongias, who is a legend in roadside commentary in France. Really distinctive voice, really a buoyant way of delivering his words. A fantastic listen, even if you can't understand what he's saying. He's just got one of those voices you love to listen to. Up the top of the climb here for the breakaway. That's why you can hear the finish so close. It is really that close. Mongias, he retired from doing the Tour de France a number of years ago now, but he's still on the circuit around around the French races. I've seen him at GP Plouay doing. There's an under-23 race there. There's the women's race and there's the men's race. He's always there when I've been down to that race, which isn't a million miles from here, really, off to the southwest. This hot weather will also pose some problems for some of these smaller teams, the continental level teams who don't have and can't afford the staff to have loads of people out on the roadside. Luckily, as it's circuits, it's not too long in between getting bottles and getting those tights full of ice and stuff like that. But it will present logistical problems for these smaller teams. Interesting that one of the Total Energy guys just swerved across the road trying to get a drink from one of those smaller teams. But the bigger teams, obviously, they have the setup, they have the logistical backup that they can feed these guys out on the road and make sure they're serviced properly and can deal with these temperatures. 1:42 now, the gap is out to. And we're just about 5 kilometers away from the next intermediate sprint. Now this is the road this breakaway are taking now is the narrow road I was on about, and where the wind will be coming from their left as they head in towards the finish. It's pretty well sheltered here with that crop of maize about as tall as it's ever going to be, and the roadside ditch. But as it drops down towards the finish straight, the Rue du Jardin, it is a bit more exposed, but this is the wind's not going to have much effect with that high roadside. I don't think. It's just that finish, that headwind sprint towards the end. Taking that same bend, and as you can see, it is proper up and down all day long. They might not be big hills, but they will start to nag at the old legs. Now, I've never noticed the different coloured socks on these Total Energy riders. Or do my eyes deceive me? Have we got red and blue socks there? Yes. You can just see the wind whistling through that maze on the left-hand side of your screen there. So it is breezy, but really it's not going to affect, with the height of the crop there, it's really not going to affect the riders. Just under the red kite across the road there, heading towards the finish line. Obviously it's not last time through. I think the riders will know. They might be hoping, if they don't like the hot weather, they might be hoping that it's only 1K to go, but they are sadly mistaken. So Le Para, who you can see in their tricolore of the French national champion, the decathlon Étoile Mondiale rider, passing ice around there. He won his national championships just a few weeks ago on this very same finish, so he knows how it goes, he knows how it works. And so the nationals, the French nationals, were held on a similar route to this. They started in Avranches, and yes, they finish in the on the same finish in Saint-Martin-de-Landelle. But the finishing circuit was slightly different. It was a bit longer, which made it a slightly different proposition. But it was the same finish. So Le Para knows what he's doing with this. He's had a stunning season. It's not just the not just his national championships win. He has 2 other rounds of the French Cup to his name this season, the Cholet Aglo Tour and the Classique Loire Atlantique, and also a stage of Itzulia Basque Country that he won back in when was that? April, I think. Taking a bunch kick there ahead of Samuele Battistella and Luis Vavaca. So he might only be 24, but again, another really accomplished rider who's certainly a big name. And they're an interesting team, aren't they? They've had a really, really good year so far. They haven't won an awful lot since kind of, well, since the French Nationals. They were really going for it up and through the Giro back in May, but actually UCI race as opposed to National Championships race, they haven't won since the 26th of May, from what I can see. Cofidis now present up there at the front, so they've clearly got some kind of strategy. Just looking back through the bunch, I don't think Coca is back. But they're just positioned. Have they only got two guys? I think they've only got two guys in this peloton. Which for a world team, perhaps they could expect more. I mean, maybe we've had a crash and they've had to work some guys back. They dropped some guys back to get Coca back on, but it certainly doesn't look like that's the case. And from the information I've got, they I don't know where those other other riders are. Breakaway just rolled through that intermediate sprint. Enkeln has some beef with someone, I think, there. Big, tall Dutchman. Gap's now 1:45, and Total Energy look like perhaps they're beginning to struggle. They're failing to hold it at that 1:30 where it was when we came to air, and it's only 15 seconds, but Soup is still there and the rider's just dropped off. The government ad there on the bottom. Soup is looking strong. I know his face is hidden behind that beard and his shades, but he is looking strong and completely in control. Whereas, of course, the one-time lead-out man for Nasser Bouhanni, but Bouhanni is now retired, and Soup taken on more a role as a domestique in the French team, having changed across. His best finish here was 17th back in 2019, but you'll remember he won at a stage of the Vuelta last year in a bunch sprint, a big bunch kick, so he's still clearly got it. And of course the Vuelta is coming up next week. Next week, more cycling to watch, and you can watch it here on Discovery Plus. I won't be commentating on it, but I will be watching it. Just come home from Spain, in fact. And it was hot. It was hot. I took a bike out with me, and it was way, way, way too hot to ride, really, for a little short, fat, pasty Englishman. It really was a bit warm. And a short, fat, pasty Englishman from the flattest part of England as well. Going up some of the hills was quite challenging. The weather forecast at one stage said 92% humidity in one day. I was sweating, pumping my tyres up. It was really hard work. Shake of the legs there from La Pera. Wonder if he's starting to feel it now. He's had as I explained earlier, very, very good season. One of the riders of the season. I mean, I hadn't heard much of his name before this year, and now he's everywhere. He's 5th in Amstel Gold Race. 4th here at Polynormande last year. So I do find it interesting that he is in the breakaway. As I explained earlier, this is the 14th round of this year's Coupe de France. There being, 17, not 16. Sorry, 16 races. The Tour de Vendée was supposed to be the final race on the 5th of October, but that's been cancelled. So it is 16 rounds. Started back in January with the Grand Prix Cycliste de Marseille, La Marseillaise even. And when you're freezing at home, to see slightly less. Oh, lucky with that bottle there. Just bounced off someone's wheel. Hit a bottle at the wrong angle and it can cause crashes. And that was very, very lucky. There you go. Through the last classified climb of La Pigeonnière. The street is actually called Monte de la Pigeonnière. And I'm guessing there either is or was some form of dovecote at the top of the hill somewhere. But yes, we've got a number of other winners of rounds of this year's Coupe de France in the race today. Paul Lepera won Classic Loire Atlantique and the Cholet Aglo Tour earlier this year. Jason Tesson from Total Energy won La Rue Torangelle. Jenta Biermans from Arcaire B&B Hotels won the Adélie de Vitre. And Axel Zangler won the Boucle de l'Aune. I think I'm saying that correctly. Also early in the year. But despite his 2 wins, La Pera is not winning the overall of the Coupe de France. That currently belongs to Benoit Cosnefroy, who has 3 wins so far this year, both from the same team. With Clément Venturini in 2nd and Alexandre Delettre in 3rd place. But Cosnefroy, despite not being here today, has a lead of 156 points. You get 50 points for a win, so So Le Perro is on 103, so could be nearly in that, could be very close. But Zangler could, should he win, overtake Cosnefroy at the top of the race. It's also a team competition, which is why you see the teams here. So Decathlon AG2 à la Mondiale are winning the teams competition ahead of Arcaea B&B Hotels, but only by 6 points. So in the individual standings, the winner gets 50 points, and 15th place is the last of a number of riders getting 3 points. The team's classification it's a bit difficult to work it out, though, things that I've read, but essentially 12, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, but only for French teams. So it is quite tight at the top, with Arcaea knocking on the door of Decathlon, and Groupama FDJ back in 3rd place on 94 points. So it is quite tight, and it's important for these French teams to rule the home roost, but it's important for other reasons as well. It's a place where you can score UCI points. Racing on small, you could see the peloton going around the other side of that roadblock. It's a place where you can score points that go towards your UCI totals. And so, whilst teams like FDJ and Decathlon are not in trouble in the promotion and World Tour promotion and relegation scheme of things, others are. So for those of you who don't know, promotion and relegation is run on a 3-year basis, and we're heading towards the end of the 2nd season of this time round the process. And those that are in the top 18 of that ranking at the end of next season will go forward to 2026 and the next cycle as a world team. If you finish outside the top 18 teams, then you are relegated. And of the teams we've got here in Normandy, 2 of them are in danger. Arcaea B&B Hotels are currently in 19th place, and they're around 1,500 points behind 18th. So this is a really important race for them to score some points to move up the ranking. Yes, I appreciate we're talking, you know, not far off 18 months away to when they could be relegated. But as they say, every point counts. And Cofidis are in 17th place and only 500 odd points ahead of 18th place. So they really need to up their game. But interestingly, a team that's not here is DSM Firmenich PostNL. And they are in 18th place, and they are in genuine trouble with regard to relegation at the end of next year. You know, they recruited over the winter, and forgive me his name, the sprinter who has not had a good couple of seasons, and his name is Fabio Jakobsen, and he abandoned the Tour again day. He's just not having any luck. And so you would expect to pick up a fair few points with a man of his undoubted class, but he's just not getting wins. So as a consequence, they've invested time and effort and money in him, and it's not paying off. So it does leave the Dutch team DSM Firmenich PostNL in a little bit of trouble, so close to the end of this promotion relegation cycle. I'd like to think they recover. I've always got on with the team when I've been at races and speaking to the staff and the riders, so I'd like to think that they can recover from that. It's a different scheme, of course, from the men's peloton, the promotion and relegation, to the women's peloton. Just Just a little split there while some of the riders were taking a feed, but it's all back together. I don't think it was any great hassle there. Hands up in the air for Mathis Lebert. Heading back to his car after a drink, no doubt. The way the World Tour, the points system is constructed, I always think is a little bit odd as well. So if you win here, the rider scores 125 points. And that decreases to 3 points. We're not talking French Cup here, we're talking UCI points. It's a different kettle of fish. That decreases down to 16 to 25 points for... sorry, to 3 points for places 16 to 25. And this is a 0.1 level, so a third division race, if you like. But you also score the same amount of points if you win the GC of a 0.1 level stage race, which I find a bit odd, because obviously you've had to work for harder, for longer to score that win, whilst you might have been picking up points in the individual stages. But what's more questionable than that is that let's pick the Giro or the Vuelta, the two second biggest stage races on the calendar. You only get 180 points for winning a stage of those races, and the level of competition is incredibly high at those races, and one might argue much higher than it is here. So you get 180 points for winning the Queen stage, let's say, of the Vuelta starting next week, and you get 125 points for winning a third division race. It does seem a little bit odd. That's why you will find teams concentrating on lower level races and trying to pick up points at these lower level races. Of course, with up to 30 riders in a World Tour, men's World Tour roster, you can run double or even triple programs, so you should be able to pick up those race wins and those points elsewhere. But it is a bit of an anomaly, the difference in the number of points that you can get. But teams have to play the rules as they are, not how they wish they were. A little bit of housekeeping for you. The final the final classified climb, which was last time round, that was won by Maximilien Juillard from Van Riesel-Roubaix. Anthony Delaplace was second, was second, and Mathis Lebert was third. And in the sprint, the third intermediate sprint was won by Delaplace. Pascal Encon in second place, picking up 3 points, and again Lebert in third.
Il avait été parmi les meilleurs. On est un peu plus de 2 minutes et on est dans les 5
So the provisional standings in the sprints competition: Delaplace, Jean-Louis Leny on Andrea Vendrame. And the provisional is in the climbers competition is Lebert, Inkhorn and Juillard. That we'll get confirmation of those later in the day, I'm absolutely certain. 61 kilometres to go now, and the lead for the breakaway is approaching 2 minutes. Number 63 here at the back appears to be just starting to have some issues. That's Joris Delbove. Just having some issues staying on the bike, stretching his back out of the saddle when really he should be, especially staying in the shelter of the riders ahead of him, just able to suck the wheels and stay with it, looking over his shoulder, not seen his arm in the air for a drink, but it's going to be difficult on a narrow road and on a descent to get anyone to come up to him. Soup back on the front here for Total Energy on the radio. They've got, what, 4 riders in that, in the front of the bunch here. There's a team's classification as well in the Coupe de France, and I've already explained that, so I won't do it again. Get to a certain age, you can't remember your own name sometimes. Feel free to give me a shout if you like on Twitter, if any of you are still using it, or X as apparently it's called these days. At Owen Rogers, no gaps, no underscores, no numbers. OWENROGERS. Please don't be rude. There's a lot of effort going in here from Delbove, just trying to stay on the back of this. It's a great performance, you know, he's running for a 3rd division team here amongst the majority of guys who are 1st division teams. You know, there's a big difference. But we've all been there when we're constantly out the saddle just to stay going, where your pedal stroke is just starting to get a bit cranky, if you'll pardon the pun, a bit lacking in smoothness, a bit rough, and just rocking and rolling, and that's where he is. I can kind of feel how he feels in sympathy with him. Great ride from him. "24-year-old from Troyes, or Troyes, I think it's pronounced. I've always thought that was pronounced Troyes, but it's Troyes, isn't it? Just in the Champagne region. He won the GC at the Tour d'Alsace earlier this year, which is no mean feat whatsoever. I think the future of this team, Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93, is a little bit unclear as well, which is a desperate shame, you know, both as a decent level men's continental to a decent standard men's continental team, but also as they've got a women's program who are about to ride the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift starting tomorrow in Rotterdam. And as far as I can see, neither team has signed any riders for next year, so it's maybe looking a little bit uncertain for this. I believe they're based in Paris. Just leaving that little bit of a gap there because he can't come through. He's going backwards, the poor guy, up to the top of Pigeonnière again. With Encorn just sat on his wheel, just waiting for the gap to go, and I'm sure Encorn will just come over the top and leave the poor guy floundering out the back. Where were we when we came to air? What, 103 kilometres, weren't we? And Total Energy were on the front, and there they still are. The same guys putting the effort in while everyone else is taking advantage. I still can't see anyone else. Perhaps there's a third Cofidis rider just a little bit further back in that bunch, but it is, yeah, there you go. Just ahead of the Van Riesel rider in the pink. About halfway down this group, there is another Cofidis rider. So there are 2 or 3 in this group, but they're yet to take any responsibility for the chase. But the pace is high. You can see that the pace is high. I appreciate the roads are narrow, so it makes it difficult to have a big bunch, and when you're constantly changing direction, it gets naturally stretched out, doesn't it? But the pace is high, and the gap is just creeping ever further upwards, which is, I'm sure, what the leading group of 10 will be hoping for. 2 minutes and 1 second, 55, just over 55 kilometres left to go, and it's all been down to Total Energy. They've only had 4 victories this year, the French team, with Tour de France Stage 9, obviously their biggest. Anthony Turgis won that day into, interestingly, Troyes, as we were just talking about. That was the gravel day, which was absolutely spectacular. I really enjoyed watching that day. I think I was doing the ironing. I like to do the ironing whilst watching a bit of any old sport will do. My wife thinks I'm just being nice by offering to do the army, but I'm good at ironing and I like watching sport, so hey. The other wins this the team have had is Emilien Journière won the Boucle de Mayenne Credit Mutuel, which is a Pro Series race. He won the opening stage of that. Jason Tesson won the Tourangelle Centre Val de Loire, which is another French Cup race, and Pierre Latour won the individual time trial at the Tour de Rwanda back very early on in the season. So they're not really getting there. They really need to start bagging some wins, and maybe they would have been better advised to try and get someone in the breakaway here today. Young Briec Roland on the back there, just out the saddle taking that bend. Even Geoffroy Soup now just starting to look a little bit uncomfortable, just starting to rock a bit. He's normally rock steady on the bike, you know, that all that work that he no doubt does on his core to hold him perfectly in position on the bike, and he's just starting to look a bit of a grimace there. Just starting to move about a bit, which is not good news for the team. That's a good point here on Twitter from Miriam, who says that her understanding of the UCI point system is that while the points distribution is disproportionate to the relative field strength, it would also be unfair to lower teams who can't attend every World Tour race. I would have to agree. You have swayed me there. You have swayed me very definitely. Because these little teams are never going to be able to move up unless they can have the opportunity to score. Of course, continental teams can't ride. I'm pretty sure they can't ride World Tour events. They can on the women's side of the sport, but they can't ride men's World Tour events. So as a consequence, they just don't get the opportunity to bag the big old points in the big classics and stuff like that. So that's a really good point. Thanks for that, Miriam. I'll shut up on that one. And Bjorn, I don't know if you're just trying to get me to say Stefan de Scrotinier. I think that's right, but he is amongst a number of he's one of the Lotto riders, and he is amongst a number of 19-year-olds racing this race. You know, they used to say policemen were getting younger. He's another one of the riders that have been promoted from the team's development team. Lotto Destiny rider being promoted up from the team's development team to race. Please forgive it, but with the big boys for today. He won a stage at the Baby Giro, the under 23 Giro this year, which for a 19-year-old is a feat in itself. I think I got the name, Stefan de Scrotinier. The race he won earlier in the summer, basically a bunch kick he won, beating Tim Thorn Teutenberg from the Little Trek Future Racing and Lorenzo Conforti from VF Group Bardiani CSF Falzane. I think the system of having riders from development teams, allowing riders from development teams to ride with the senior squad is brilliant, because it actually is allowing development riders the chance to develop themselves, to ride in these lower level races or whatever level races and learn from the more experienced riders. I think is an absolutely brilliant idea. Cofidis now come to the front, 50 k's to go, and the gap now out at 2 minutes and 3 seconds, still eminently retrievable. Though whether some of the world teams who have riders up ahead will bother, or whether they will let the bother to assist, or whether they'll just let Cofidis and Total Energy exhaust themselves in pursuit of the leaders, remains to be seen. it's not really the responsibility of the continental level teams to chase down a breakaway. Whether or not they have a rider up the road or not, it's not really their job. When you've got these higher ranked squads ahead, that's why it's kind of important for those higher ranked squads to get someone up the road in order that they're in a stronger position to defend. It depends on your attitude. If you're confident you're going to bring someone back, well, why would you put someone up the road? But it does seem to me that perhaps Total Energy have underestimated the strength, the magnitude of the task, and are just letting the race go away. They're losing guys at the front of the race here. And Cofidis is certainly becoming a little bit more obvious at the front here. They're clearly in a better position than I thought they were.
Avec toujours Geoffrey Soupe en tête. On a polynormande, le polynormande.
So the Madar rider going through there, the Algerian champion. Azzedine Lagab. Azzedine, I guess it's spoken. It's a. When I was looking through the start list in preparation for today, I was looking through a race with a French name, and it confused me. And then I remembered, of course, that they speak a bit of French in Algeria, don't they? I know it wasn't the Tour d'Algérie cycliste. So anyway, as far as I can see, there are 3 Cofidis riders in this chasing group. What do Total Energy have left? 4 maybe? So if they want to take the win, they're certainly going to have to commit someone. Which is perfect, of course, for the likes of Decathlon AG2R, Groupama FDJ. It's absolutely perfect for those big teams. Lotto Destiny as well, with 2 guys up the road. It's absolutely perfect. They could well be going for Lotto Destiny, should it come back together. Milan Menton, the Belgian rider, won Le Samine last year, which is a proper gnarly spring race, isn't it? Always muddy, all those ridiculously painful looking cobbles. Great race. I really enjoy watching that. If you get the chance next spring, certainly switch that one on, because it's always entertaining. Women's race as well. Women's race in the morning, men's race in the afternoon. So it's always a good day's viewing. Decathlon AG2R just coming up on the left side of your screens. Now, this is very definitely a change in the dynamic of this race, with the World Tour squad coming through to take a little bit of responsibility. So at the front of the race, they have La Perreur in that absolutely stunning tricolor. But they're just positioning themselves for something now. 46.5 kilometers to go, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So they've clearly got designs for someone else. Dries de Bont is out of the race. Vendrame took the first of the Vendrame took the first of those intermediate sprints earlier in the day. So perhaps either going for Godon or Vendrame, or just going to police the situation. 2 minutes and 6 seconds. They may be quite confident in La Pera being able to challenge for the win in 46 kilometers time. So maybe they're going to just try and disrupt the chase and let it go out a little bit more, or maybe they're actually going to start working and going to bring this back and look to bring it back for a bunch kick a bit later on. I wouldn't have thought they'll be wanting it to come out just yet. That bottle that someone dropped clearly couldn't make up its mind whether to stay in the middle of the road or whether to go off and give itself to one of the fans. I think it decided that one of the fans would like it in the end, but it was rolling perfectly down the middle of the road. One, two, four on the back, Pierre-Henri Basset. Another young man, only 20 years old, and his first year in the continental ranks, having come up from a Breton team, the VC Pays de Ludiac, only this year. And are we about to wave goodbye to number 63, Joris Delboeuf? He is a man in all sorts of discomfort here. Looks a bit pale as well. And just something going down in this little group here. It's just splitting, bit of pressure being put on the front here. Basset just sitting on the back here, and wonder if he's going to be next to go. And 116 there is Jean-Louis Lenny, also out of the saddle. He looks reasonably comfortable to me though, but just here we are at the top of La Pigeonnière, and Le Perroir is making an effort in the front of this breakaway here, out the saddle, putting a little bit of hammer down and just stretching this. Another drink for Lenny. Oh, perhaps less of a drink and more a shower. Through the town again, as I explained earlier, they're off towards the west now, heading northwest. 2 minutes the gap, so heading northwest there, the breakaway, and then they'll cut back down and come through the finish line next time round. Will be with just 37 kilometers to go. The wind's, just according to my little forecast here, the wind is dropping the tiniest amount. They're on the Pigeonnière climb, and it's just short of 2.2 kilometres long, an average of 3.7, but there are ramps of 7.5% in the middle, So it's not exactly easy, especially when you're doing it every 12, well, every 10k essentially, aren't you? If it's 2.2 k's long, you get over the top and you've got 10 k's left before you start it again. And of course, there's the drag up to the finish line, which you've got to contend with as well. So it really, really numbs the legs. A circuit race like this really, really numbs the legs. And then Rue de Jardin, which is the finish line, that climb is just under 2 kilometres long, and as I said earlier, is average is less than 3%. Ramps are 5%, but really that's nothing too challenging. More stretching at the back here for the FDJ rider, Briac-Rollin. Now, I'm guessing from my limited knowledge of French that a name like Briac would be a Breton name from Brittany. Anyone know? Anyone going to tell me? Rollin obviously is a far more common French name, and you can see Delbove here just being caught by the bunch. I think he's put a good shift in here. Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93. Or should that be 93? Just starting to move up as well, which is an interesting. Obviously, their rider who was in the breakaway has been dropped. So they're, despite being one of the lower level teams, the continental team, they are taking responsibility and that, you know, racing aggressively. If, as has been hinted, just looking at the fact that they don't appear to have anything sorted for next year. I mean, that's not confirmed, it's just a suspicion. But if that's the case, these guys have got to put themselves in the shop window, really, and the riders need to get out there. Or alternatively, the team has to put themselves in the shop window and try and get sponsors on board and try and save the team and take it forward. Saint-Michel, I believe, make cakes. Mavic are the venerable wheel makers and component makers who so nearly went out of business just a few years back. I had, without digressing too much, I got into cycling because my brother was a cyclist and he was a dyed-in-the-wool Mavic wheel man. So guess what brand I use? And yeah, Mavic. And I had the great pleasure of writing a feature about them and for Cycling Weekly a few years ago. And they lost the advertising that essentially came from being the neutral service provider for races like the Tour de France or all the ASO races. So they lost a lot of publicity and they really had to contract. I mean, they were the first company to make an electronic group set, if you didn't know that. But yeah, so I have a soft spot for Mavic components. I have to say, I have a number of pairs of Mavic wheels, perhaps too many to admit to, including my brother's old wheels, which are on his old bike, hung up in my garage. An old Roberts built near Crystal Palace in the probably in the 1970s, near Crystal Palace in South London, by Chaz Roberts. They had a number of Roberts had a number of frame builders in their company. I believe Charlie started the company way back when, and then handed the company down to Chaz and his brother Jeff. And I believe Jeff is still making frames down. He certainly was about 5 years ago, down in Battle or near Battle in East Sussex, which is way in the far southeast corner of England, for those of you that don't know. I spent I took my brother's frame to Jeff to have it refurbished, and it now hangs in my garage. New everything. Campagnolo chorus, Mavic Open Pro wheels with Campagnolo hubs. Way too uncomfortable a bike for me to ride. It's so low at the front, no aero bars back when that was built, but yeah, really uncomfortable bike to ride. No clipless pedals, normal pedals with toe clips. So Mavic take to the front of the peloton now. 1:56 is the gap with 38.2 kilometers to go. And here we are with the 44th edition of La Polynormande. We started the day in very much aggressive style. With Andrea Vendrame taking the first intermediate sprint and trying to get away up the road, but failing before the day's 10-man breakaway formed. They still have a lead of 1 minute and 57 seconds, passing through the finish line as we speak. I think that's Encorn on the front, isn't it? And that front group consists of the following riders: Pascal Encorn and Liam Slock from Lotto Destiny. The French national champion Paul Laperroire from AG2R La Mondiale, Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale. Björk Rollin, who is a very young man promoted up from the FDJ development team to ride today with the senior squad. We have two riders from Arkea B&B Hotels. That's Anthony Delaplace and Mathis Lebert. Delaplace won this race way back in 2011. From some of the continental squads, we have Maximilien Juillard from Van Riesel-Roubaix, Jean-Louis Leny from Nice Métropole Côte d'Azur, and Pierre-Henri Basset from CIC U Nantes Atlantique. And in the peloton behind, it's been chasing all day long from Total Energy, who are now sitting second wheel with Geoffroy Soup, while Cofidis have now come to the front, despite me having lost the rider I would say was their pick for today. In fact, my notes even say the team have all their eggs in the Brian Coca basket. But it appears that he's disappeared, dropped or crashed or something early on in the day. And now Cofidis clearly have another rider up their short summer sleeves in order to try and challenge for the win here at La Polynormande in the rolling Normandy countryside of northwest France. I can see that rider on the front, another Cofidis. That's 3 Cofidis riders in that leading group. 36.8 kilometers left to go, and still a fair old chunk of climbing, I'll have you know.
Il a dit, j'ai la possibilité de courir chez moi avec le maillot bleu, blanc, rouge. Je veux courir devant mes parents, devant mon fan club. et mes amis, et il est au gain de cause. Il aurait dû être à San Sébastien hier.
Still got about 500 metres of the 2,500 metres of climbing. I mean, 2,500 metres of climbing, I can't find 2,500 metres of climbing around where I live, so you might think it's flat, but 2,500 metres of climbing is a fair old decent day out, especially when you're dealing with temperatures of 31 and 32 degrees centigrade, which is what in Fahrenheit money, I'm guessing it's about 86, 87 maybe. La Power there on the front, on the back, sorry. Number 11, the French national champion, as I explained a little bit earlier, won his title, won that jersey, that beautiful French tricolour jersey. One, I think, one of the most attractive national champions jerseys you see. Won that on this very finish. He knows what he's doing, but that gap is just starting to creep downwards now. 1 minute and 50 seconds with the addition of Cofidis and the Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93 team just coming to the front and helping on. Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale also present there on the left-hand side of your screen. Are they coming to do something, or are they coming just to be a nuisance and just try and get in the way? 4 of their riders all in a line there, just edging out the Arkea riders behind them. You've got Lotto Destiny also moving up with one of the Cofidis riders. Arkea, B&B Hotels also starting to make their presence felt at the front. And in the pink is the Van Riesel Roubaix team. This is a good move, a good effort being put on here. Some of the drop riders, I guess, here, or are they cyclotourists and they haven't been told to get off the road? No, they are from the Novapur speed bike team, and they've been dropped. Just checking out their jersey. They're the North Macedonian team, I believe. They started today with 2 Greek riders. They had Jora Debelara from Belgium, Glenn van Nuffelen, who is also Belgian, Lucas Sulaj Kloppenberg, who is Albanian. Interesting name. Just sneaking off the back here is Juia, just being dropped. Yes, he's putting a massive try, just trying to get back on, but once you've lost the draft of the group you're in, it's just the most desperate of feelings, and you're already in trouble, but now you're really in trouble. Out of the saddle, just giving it all he's got, but he's not going back. He is not going to come back to this group. The descents aren't long enough. The breakaway bit ahead of him is too strong, so we're now down to 8 men at the front of this race. Maybe Delaplace is starting to struggle here, just chucking a bottle off to one of the fans at the side of the road. .142, there's definitely a move on here from the bunch behind, definitely coming back now. Soup's still there, Cofidis looking completely comfortable. The guy on the front, not seen his number, just looking lovely. Look at him, just stock still on the bike, legs like pistons, absolutely beautiful. Lotto Destiny also making their presence felt. Groupama FDJ also there. So there are plenty of teams coming to help. But interestingly, Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale just dropped back again. They've made themselves felt a little bit at the front, and then they slide backwards. Perhaps they're just moving to the front to give themselves sliding room on the climb. So that's a man in complete control of his bike there on the front. Maybe the hint of a grimace there. But this is a very definite upping of the pace here from Cofidis. And I think we're going to see a fair few riders in trouble out of this this peloton. And maybe Decathlon are going to be caught out here. Just as the pace has been lifted at the front by Cofidis, it looks like the Decathlon guys are just starting to creep backwards off the front of that group, and they may get caught out if it breaks by the top of this climb. 1:31 now, 32 kilometers, and we're at the top of La Pigeonnière again. So we're only up the climb now 2 more times. De La Place is not in trouble at all. He's back in that group there, and if he's back in at the top of that, then he's absolutely fine. But that's a smaller group than we had a little while ago, I think. The very distinctive jerseys of Van Riesel-Roubaix there on the back, and the equally distinctive yellow and orange of the Mavic. Sorry, the Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93 team there on the front. It's a kind of bubblegum colour, that Van Riesel colour, isn't it? Boom. Here you go, Cofidis again, and it's the end there for the Saint-Michel rider. That's the end, and Cofidis really, really lifting it as they're coming in towards the top of the climb. The gap's just crept up slightly. You would expect that. The breakaway going downhill, the peloton going uphill, but 1:38 now. Massive effort here from Cofidis, spinning that little ring. He looks in perfect control, though. And he's just holding his effort over the top now as they come back through the village. As I said earlier, they're literally like 200 meters away from the finish, if that, which is off to their left, to the right of your screens, through the buildings there. There's a tiny line of houses in between the two. Still working well at the front here. 29, we're inside the final 30 kilometers now. 1:34 rather, the gap to 8 leaders at the front. Those are Pascal Encorn and Liam Slock of Lotto Destiny. Paul Lapera, the French champion, just putting his bottle back in the cage of Decathlon AG2R Le Mondial. Brieuc Rollin, the young rider from representing Groupama FDJ, Anthony Delaplace and Mathis Lebert from Arc Airbnb Hotels. And then we have Jean-Louis Lenny of Nice Metropole Côte d'Azur, who is there on the back. Maybe he's the next guy to get popped. And Pierre-Henri Basset from CIC Unant Atlantique. Interesting move there from number 33 rather, Lebert, just dropping back onto the back of this little group, still working together, still looking strong. Incorn there on the front of the group, putting the pressure on, keeping this gap out. It's now back out to 1:40. Obviously it depends on where the tracking system from the motorcycle that's following is in comparison. But at the back, you know, is this coming back out? Is this the move? Is this the bid for glory from this leading group? Sprinting out of the corner there for Lebert. And Cofidis back on the front. Lotto Destiny just chatting on the radio. This is the group, and it looks maybe like a bit of the pace has gone out. Maybe they're just slowing for this junction. But it just looks like perhaps the pace has gone out of the front of the group here. But it's been stretched out the whole day. As I said earlier, I know it's narrow roads and that's easier. You know, it's difficult to bunch up when you're on narrow roads, but it has been stretched out for most of the day. The pace has been high, and this leading group, sorry, this peloton group, we'll call it the peloton, is shrinking, you know, by the pedal stroke almost. There's just a couple of guys there at the back of that line of cars. The commissaire won't let all the cars through because the gap isn't great enough to let them all through. But at 1:37, you would imagine that there's protection there from the team cars of the leading teams. Juillard, his day's done now in that lovely distinctive kit of Van Riesel-Roubaix, is just heading backwards. I'm sure he'll try his hardest to stay in this group, stay with this group, but I'm just looking to see if he's got any teammates there. Yeah, I think he's got a couple of guys just further back. 1:39 the gap. It's not coming down that quickly, not as quickly as I'd anticipated it would. But that is certainly a much smaller group, maybe 25, maybe 30 riders now left in this chasing group. And there's plenty of riders in this group who have teammates ahead. Just, you see one of the, I think it's Groupama FDJ riders just on the radio to either to his teammates or back to the team car, maybe asking for advice. Do we work? Do we not work? But these guys are still working really hard at the front of the race. You can see the team cars, hand up there from the CIC Nantes Atlantique rider. Over the shoulder there from Einkorn. Arkea B&B hotels are on the radio as well. You've got the tricolor of Paul Lapeyre, the national champion, the French national champion, just coming through. Grimace there from the Arkea rider as he just slips to the front of the group. And Lenny now takes to the front of the race. Lovely position here. Look at that, elbows bent, forearms parallel with the ground from the Arkea rider. That's a beautiful position. Perhaps a little bit more workmanlike. I think that's Einkorn on the front here for the Lotto Destiny rider. But they're really working well through and off. 26 kilometers to go. 1 minute and 45 seconds. This is a great breakaway. It's lovely to see a group of riders working absolutely so perfectly together. I really do wonder whether or not this is going to come back. Coming up towards the finish, there are 500 meters. They'll know this very, very, very well by now. This will be maybe last drinks. You would normally find that that drinks and food are only handed out. They stopped at 20 kilometers from the finish, but bear in mind the fact that we've got 32 degrees, 32 and a half now. I've got 32 and a half degrees. You would imagine that the commissaires will allow one more lap, that drinks can be taken on the next time round, which will be with 12.5 kilometers to go. 25.3 now, just coming through to the line. I think that's Slock on the front there. Liam Slock, only 23 years old. No professional wins to his name yet. But yeah, some good results to his name. He's got a second place at the Olympias Tour in the GC overall, and last year and also the year before he was second in a stage at the Circuit des Ardennes International. You saw one of the riders trying to. There's a couple of fans there with cardboard things, asking for bidons with holes in, and the rider's trying to get them through. And you saw one of the riders really launch his bottle there, and I wonder if he was aiming for the hole in the cardboard. I think that's Axel Zangler on the front there, I think. Out the saddle, he's put a damn good shift in, you can certainly say that, just as he comes up towards the line here. Back to the front of the race, still 8 riders in this group and still working well together. They just lost the gap here. Just looking at my timing sheets, they're saying 2 minutes and 19 seconds, and if that's the case, I would expect the winner to come from this leading group. The Pera just dropping to the back of the group here.
La Manche libre, la Gazette de la Manche, les quotidiens qui reviendront dans le détail. Mais maintenant la messe est dite, le vainqueur est devant, l'écart avec le peloton est de 2 minutes et 14
Yep, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. I think this day might be done here. I think it could be these 8 riders who'll be battling for the win, though whether or not number 116 can make it there, I don't know. That's Jean-Louis Lenny. Whether he can quite make it there, oh, he's starting to look as if he's suffering that little bit, doesn't he? 26-year-old rider. On the Tour of Brittany, Le Tour de Bretagne Cycliste in 2021, 1GC there. Which is a 2.2, so it doesn't count as professional as a professional race. He won that. Now Van Riesel Roubaix come to the front here. Now this is another team desperately looking to try and bring it back. 2 minutes and 5 seconds is the lead, and it's touch and go, touch and go. I believe that's Célestin Guyon. Second year with this team for him. He's got a couple of wins to his name over the years, but only in lower level races. But this is a big effort, but there's no change yet in that timing. 21.4 kilometers, 2 minutes 5 seconds, and teams right on his wheel. The guys right on his wheel all have riders up the road, except the Cofidis rider, who is, I believe, Zangler, Axel Zangler. there. Decathlon AG2R do have 4 riders, I think. Someone just appeared on the very back of this group. Bottle bouncing into the road. You got to be so careful. They are kind of designed to burst these days. Get it at the wrong angle though, you're still in mass pile-up land. He's made a little bit of dent, but they do say there's a kind of rule of thumb that you can get a minute back per 10k, or is it the other way around? 10k back. You know what I'm trying to say, I'm sure. Yeah, a minute's gap can be taken in 10k by a concerted chase. Whether or not this is a concerted chase remains to be seen, but it's not a full peloton. It's literally about 25 riders. It's a really restricted group. The bear just trying to grab a drink there, but couldn't quite get one. And what does the timing board say there? Is that 2:40 or 1:40? Another big move here from Zangler. I believe it's Zangler at the front for Cofidis. He's going to launch his teammate here. Now they are going for it. This is a really, really big move. With the big teams, this is going to split this chase up, and this is the problem. If you only have 5 or 6 riders chasing, who is going to do the chasing when there's still a minute and a half from the front of the race? But this is a big move now. And is it just these 2 riders left chasing? You've got Arkea B&B trying to close the gap, but the desperation on those faces. There's some big, deep gasps of air trying to come through. Another rider from Arkea just trying to close this gap now on the climb, and they're trying to get back, but it'll be a chasing group of 3. But it is literally all or nothing for these riders, except for the Arkea rider. Once he's on, he can afford to sit on. Lotto Destiny just trying to come across as well now, and the Arkea rider is on. But there's some suffering going on here, isn't there, eh? Ice down the back of the neck. Happy ever after, I'm going to sit on. Inside the final 20 kilometres, 1 minute and 21 seconds is the gap from this group of 8 riders back to only 3 chasers, and one of those chasers, of course, has a teammate ahead of him, has 2 teammates ahead of him. He will quite happily sit there while these guys work really hard to stay away and to fight for the win themselves. But this is really touch and go now, really getting to the nitty-gritty of this particular race. There he is, number 35. They've clearly got a gap because the commissaire, the motorcycle regulator, has allowed the TV bike in the gap. I think the TV bike is perhaps struggling to get back on, but and 44 from Cofidis is Axel Zangler. 64 is Alexandre Delettre from Saint-Michel Mavic over Aubert 93. And number 44. Sorry. 44 is Zangler, isn't it, you stupid man? And 35 is Mathis Duvel from Arkea. And as I said, Arkea, and they're only just coming over the top of the climb now. Just over there, 18 kilometres yet to go. I think that might just be slightly previous, that because on the road book, it says that's at 19.3. Still working well. Essentially now you've got two riders. You've got Zangler and Delettre chasing this group of 8, all of whom are working, all of whom are invested. And not only Delettre and Zangler have Louvel sat on the back, yeah, they've got to chase back these guys. .32 at the back here is Anthony Delaplace. 1:21. They've taken a couple of seconds, but we'll have to see how that plays out, won't we? And I'm not saying that Louvel is out for a cafe ride, because he's not. This is a very hard race, but he's just quite happily sat on the back. Right, Zangler does all the work on the front here. Just going to come through is Delettre. They're not making a dent. They have to make a dent. They have to work very, very hard. Little gap there. Zangler looking over his shoulder, and he needs some help to get back through, and Louvel is going to get through. I don't think he'll come through and do a turn, but he would quite happily sit on Deletre's wheel as they go through. He doesn't want... If another rider gets across, anyone gets across, he wants to be there, so then Arkea have 3 at the front. So he doesn't care if Zangler is dropped. What he does care is that if Delettre gets across, he's also got across. But I fear that Delettre may be putting in such an effort, he's going to blow his doors off, as they say. Zangler quite happy to have the rest and sit on the back. Louvel comes through at the front, checks over his shoulder. Are you coming? Are you coming? They really need to take shorter turns. These longer turns, you just don't have the recovery period. But there's not going to be any organisation in this group of 3, because they've got to hang her on, haven't they? RK are absolutely in the box seat now, with two riders at the front of the race and 1 in this chasing group. Big move, is it? Just there from Delettre. Just comes through, takes his rightful place at the front of this chasing trio. And have we got more riders getting back on? Yes, this is one of the Lotto Destiny riders now coming through. And that is Matthijs Paskens. Forgive my pronunciation, please, Dutch followers. Paskens or Passions? I think it's Paskens. Now he will work to get on, and again, once he's on this group, he's also got two colleagues at the front of the race, and as a consequence, he can sit on. That, I would imagine, will kill the cooperation in this group of 4. He's also got the benefit of the neutral service motorcycle that he's just going to get a bit of a draft on. He's also trying to get across on a descent, so he's a big old guy, isn't he? So he's likely to be able to get back on as long as he's on before the road starts going uphill properly again. Just closing in now, isn't he? He will doubtless be using... Yeah, you can see him swing across to the side of the road. He's definitely using that neutral service bike to get across. But now he's on the back, and I imagine he's going to sit there with Louvel and do very little. Just gaps again. Number 5 is Liam Schlock. He's a big old unit as well, isn't he, eh? But they're still working. These gaps, these little gaps have been coming and going, but it's interesting to see now that number 116, Jean-Louis Lenny, is just not taking a turn. I think he is about to fall backwards. So we're just over a kilometre away from the final lap of this race. And they've got Brent Van Moor with them as well now. This really should kill the front of the race. You don't know what the riders, the Lotto Destiny riders at the front are saying. If they're saying that they need some help, maybe they'll allow the chasing riders to come across, the 5 chasers to come along. But I really can't see that happening. It'd be a really unusual turn of events. 1:26, they've got no closer. Axel Zangler going through the camera shot now. You've got Delettre from Saint-Michel Aubert 93 just on the front of this group now. And I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of cooperation here. 1:26 going through with essentially 13.5 kilometres to go, while at the front of the race they're beginning La Dernière Tour, the final lap of this 12.5 kilometre circuit, with a lead of 1 minute and 26. If it were a bigger group chasing, maybe they're going to do it. But with only 5 riders, 3 of whom have colleagues up the road, it ain't going to happen. The bell's being rung here in the Finnish town of Saint-Martin-de-Landelle. We have 12.5 kilometres of our 168.9 kilometres that we started the day with remaining. We started in Avranches, right up on the Normandy coast, in sight of the Mont Saint-Michel Abbey. We headed south and joined for 11 circuits, 11 laps of this 12-kilometre circuit. And just about on that first lap round, 10 riders went clear. That has now been whittled down to just 11 to start with, in fact. But that has now been whittled to 8 riders at the front. One of those, Lenny, is just beginning to sit on a little bit. And now you have a chasing group of 5, 3 of whom have teammates at the front of the road. It's a fascinating tactical situation. Are Lotto Destiny working? Certainly, it looks like they may be working here. Why would you bring across Zangler as a strong rider? I've got 5 chasing riders here at 1 minute and 37 seconds, according to my team's timing. 2 riders have just escaped over the line. There's nothing to escape for other than glory. And now Lepera goes, just tries to break up the cooperation at the front of the race. The French national champion making a little move, looks over his shoulder. Still got riders on his wheel. He's got 2 Lotto Destiny riders. Those 2 riders being Pascal Enkhorn and Liam Schlock. Schlock, the Belgian, Enkhorn, the big Dutch rider. And they're back together now. Lapera just slipping back in this group once again. The young Groupama FDJ rider, Briec Rollin, just coming through to take his chance at the front. Now on the front is Pierre-Henri Basset. No, sorry. My mistake. He's gone. It's Liam Slock. Just out the saddle there. For Basset. Cards to play here for both Airbnb hotels and for Lotto Destiny. La Pera goes straight through the group and comes to the front, trying to keep it going. 1 minute and 25 seconds you can hear on the race radio coming from behind. La Pera is trying to keep it moving. I don't know if he knows. 10 Ks to go, 5 chasers, 1 minute and 28 seconds. He's looking a little bit twitchy here. He's wanting to keep it moving. Does he need to keep it moving? Still, Denis sits on the back here. He's not come through to take the full turn. I don't blame him. Basset sits second wheel in this group. Slock shakes out his legs, trying to get the stiffness out. So does Denis. Slapping him, please, please, give me some life in my legs now. The last bottle goes 9.7 kilometers to go. Looks like a lovely road surface to descend on. The motorbike has to back off, can't quite keep up with the bikes. I was never good at going around corners either on a push bike or a motorbike, to be fair, but there you go. If any of my friends are listening, they'll know exactly what I mean. Still the pressure being put on at the front. We got no bike at the front. We can't quite see. Is it La Pera still on the front there? I think it is, yeah. Doing too much work, perhaps. He's only there, him from Decathlon AG2R there. He really needs some help here. They need to start working, but of course, as is the way it is on this particular route, they're constantly uphill. They'll hit the top of La Pigeonnière at 6.8 kilometers to go. Out the saddle there for number 32. Anthony Delaplace, who won this race way back in 2011. The biggest winning margin ever of 144. It ain't going to be 144 today. Just trying to use one of the back markers that's getting lapped. Trying to use him as a bit of a launch pad, maybe. Just everyone out of the saddle putting the effort in here. Labeur looking comfortable here on the back. And it's a move off the front here. Is that a... Yeah, that is an effort. That's an effort. And you can see Delaplace now is really struggling. Delaplace is going backwards. Lebert is going to have to close the gap here to this little move on the front, which looks like it's from Pascal Encorn. The Continental riders here, Denis and Basset, just being dropped by this move at the front of the race. 8.4 kilometers to go. I think this is done. It's going to be the 6 riders who are now at the front. These 2 guys, they've probably, well, they've had a brilliant day out. They've got their sponsors, they've got their names on the TV, but I think it's going to be the day done for the pair of them. But what a race they've had. Basset from CRC Nantes Atlantique and Denis also there from the Nice Metropole Côte d'Azur. They're now going to work really hard. One of the other riders is off the front now. Sorry, he's off the back of this group, just getting back on. Is it going to be 6? Yeah, still 6 at the front of the race. Delaplace is just really struggling to get back on. Even though it's downhill, you can see he's really beginning to struggle now. That'll just leave his teammate Mathis Lebert from Airbnb Hotels in that group. If he can't keep up, I would expect a little bit of move on this on the next climb up to the top of Pigeonnière, which we're just about to start. 7.2 kilometers to go. And La Pera at the front of this group is just opening it up at the front. And a big effort from the Lotto Destiny rider trying to close it back. And look at this from Basset, really giving everything he's got to try and get back on as they re-enter the Finnish village. Saint-Martin de Landelle. Dying 1,000 deaths. Death by 1,000 cuts for any of those Taylor Swift fans out there. One of my favourites. And now it's Paul Laprera. And is it Slock or is it Einkorn at the front looking over his shoulder? Laprera looking over his shoulder. Now he needs some help. I wonder if the Lotto Destiny rider's just going to sit on for a little while, try and get his breath, ease the pain in his legs as he gets back on. You can see he's got a massive grimace on his face. And we've got Briac Roland just coming back to, just putting it, giving it everything, coming back. Laprera swings over. Einkorn, Laprera at the front of the race now. It's nearly done. It's nearly done. Just 6 kilometers to go. One final squirt of cold water. It looks more like a miniature bottle of wine to me. Chucks that away to an old lady stood by the side of the road. And Roland is back with this group now. 3 riders at the front of this race. Just 6 of the 168 kilometers left to go. Just 6. Roland not taking a turn yet. And Einkorn on the front. 1 Dutchman, 2 Frenchmen. 3 different teams. A look over his shoulder. Laprera decides to take another drink rather than really go for it. They've got a gap, from what I can see here, of 20 seconds. 20 seconds to a chasing group of 3. Is that really going to work? Are people going to chase their teammates? I don't think so. You've got Arkea B&B Hotels, though, who behind them, they're not represented at the front. 2 riders together could perhaps bring this back, and I think it is. No, it's one of the Lotto Destiny riders that's at the front. It'll be Slock and one of the B&B hotels, I would suggest Mathis Lebert, that are trying to get back on. There's 3 riders in this little group at the front now and chasing on. And these 2 riders, Lenny and Basset, what a ride they've done. These guys still not fully committed, looking over their shoulders, and we've not seen Roland come through and take a turn yet. It would be a remarkable win for the young rider Roland, Briac Roland. Laprera comes through. Are these guys? They're 20 seconds, 4 kilometers. I think their day is done unless these 3 start messing about. But you've got all 3 podium places here. There's no one who's going to miss out on the podium here. Working really real together now. Just will Roland come through and take his turn when Laprera swings off? He's bound to do. 15 seconds now, the gap. 3.9 kilometers. It's really hotting up here, if it could get any hotter. 32 degrees down there in northern France. Laprera is putting a big turn in. Cranked it over, knee out, MotoGP style for Laprera. Swings over. Will Roland come through? Roland does come through. Only 20 years old. His only race wins are in juniors or in junior races. Coming through, taking his turn on the front. He's in rarefied company here with 2 World Tour riders. He just up from the development team for today's race. Working well, yep. Oh, and Einkorn swings off. He's sitting on now. I wonder if he's not looking out. He doesn't think he can make it with his sprint, or he's just trying to preserve himself as the road climbs in towards the finish. The last bottle ejected at the camper van from La Pera, French national champion. Can he take a third win in the Coupe de France this year and add to his burgeoning palmares? They have the benefit of the motorbike to follow here, the TV bike. I wonder if they're going to get told to just move up the road a little bit, because this chase is on 2.5 kilometres. They're going to come down this road. They're going to drop down to a tight left-hander and then start dragging uphill for the final 2 kilometres up towards the line. Encon still not come through. Rollin on the front now. Encon takes his drink, chucks it to the family. Waiting by the side of the road, a number of people stood here on the right with their camper vans. Looks like they're in an orchard. Encon looking over his shoulder. Is he waiting for his teammate? Is he waiting for Slock? Is he going to sit on? Rollin has got wise to this. He's checked over his shoulder. He's seen Encon isn't making a move. The bike comes far past. How close are those chasers? Are we going to see they're too far back now? 1.8, 1,800 metres to go. La Pera, winner of 2 French Cup races already this year. Rollin from Groupama FDJ, never having won a professional race, just coming through to take his turn. And the canny Dutchman, Pascal Encon, just sat on the back, waiting for his teammate, Liam Slock, to come back to him. I don't think that's going to happen. 1,500 metres. Encon is going to have to make a move. I don't think he trusts his sprint. La Pera comes through. They're getting closer behind. 1,400 metres. Could it be? Could it be the Arkea B&B riders, B&B hotel rider, just pulling that little group? You've got a string. You've got a whole garage behind them. All those team cars coming up behind them. They're getting closer. It's 1,200 metres. There's got to be 2 of the Arkea riders in that group. There has to be the 2 of them. It has to be Delaplace and Mathis Lebert. Delaplace, and boom, here we go. Here goes Rollin. He opens it up, makes his move. La Pera is forced to chase it down. Encon still sitting in the shelter of La Pera, the French champion. And Rollin is really, really pushing a big gear, too big a gear maybe. You've got 4 riders in that chasing group, and they're stalling. They're stalling. La Pera looks over his shoulder. Encon doing nothing, waiting for Liam Slock to come back to him. Encon now through to the front. Pushing that big gear. That's a huge gear. We're inside the final kilometre now, probably 900 metres. We've been going for 3 hours and 54, and they're starting to finesse. Are they really going to allow this group to come back? La Pera looking at Encon, looking for the shelter of the big Dutchman. Back in the shelter, checks over his shoulder. Are they coming back? Probably 800 metres now left to go. Rollin, the young Frenchman, sat in third wheel. Can he take his first win? Encon just, not brake checks him, but he's out of the saddle, stops pedaling. Whoa, is this going to come back? It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Encon now still in second wheel. La Pera wondering what to do. What are his options? Can he start an early sprint? Oh. Rollin now looking to wipes his mouth, nervous looks. 500 metres inside the final 500 metres to go now. La Pera still on the front. B&B Hotels, one of the B&B Hotels riders, out of the saddle trying to bring this back. I think it's Delaplace trying to bring it back for La Pera, but we just can't see. 250 metres to go now. Oh, it's really getting close now. The camera makes it look shorter, and he opens the sprint. La Pera, the French national champion, opens his sprint. Encon, the big Dutchman, is trying to get back on terms. 150 metres to go, and it looks like La Pera has got it. He'll be his third win in the Coupe de France. He's waving at the crowd. He's got time to sit up, and Paul Lapera from Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale takes this, the 44th edition of La Polynormande. What a race, what a finish, what a real confident move from the French national champion there. Boy, did I enjoy that. And I have to admit to being a little bit out of breath there. What a confident move by the Frenchman there. What a finish. I mean, it's on the verge of cocky, isn't it? On the verge of arrogant, but if you know you got it, you know you got it, why not? Brilliant. Waves his finger at the crowd. What a fantastic finish. He made so much of the running in that group of 10. What a race.
Prix de Roland, il termine à la 3e place et beaucoup de monde. Aujourd'hui, c'est vrai que le public était dispatché. On cherchait l'ombre sur le parcours. Il y avait beaucoup de monde dans les côtes de la vallée. Je sais que le fan club de Paul Lapera, est-ce que vous êtes là? Ah oui, mais tout le monde aujourd'hui dans le fan club.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We could see Pascal Encorn, the Lotto Destiny rider, finished in second, and Briec Roland, the young French rider, stepping up from the Groupama FDJ development team, took third place behind him. We'll just have to wait and see, wait for the graphic to see what the remaining places are. I love this when the guys further down the field sprint as if they're sprinting for the win. I mean, maybe they're sprinting for points. Arkea need them. And here come what remain of the peloton. More Arkea riders leading it out. Gels falling out of pockets. Just seeing the sprint again there. Just opened up with about just under 200 meters to go. And he had such a kick on him. He was able to keep it going till the line. Roland looks over his shoulder. His third place is absolute guaranteed. With Encorn taking second place. Interesting how the two teams that had two riders in the breakaway didn't take the win. Just shows the absolute class of Paul Lapera. Is that Coquard? Looks like Coquard just crossing the line. 3 minutes and 40 seconds behind the winner.
Deuxième au Tour de Provence, un parcours deuxième également donc à Plumelec. Quel parcours, je salue mon ami donc Arsène David. Voilà, ça va Arsène, quel temps il fait plus Briac? Très chaud, il y a un moment qui est parti. Big Briac, c'est quand cette année? Le jour de fan club.
That's Liam Slock there, just riding back, helmet straight off to avoid the heat. Heading back to the team buses, I've no doubt. Some of these Conti riders, the Continental riders, will probably just have a minibus if they're lucky. Excuse me.
Donc, le podium, dans un cool moment de la cérémonie protocolaire. Est-ce que tu peux aller me chercher chez Vatsport le classement? Je te donne rien. Ah, le maire de Grand Paris, il est où, monsieur le maire?
And here we go, our top 10, with Lapera taking first place, Pascal Encorn, Björk Roland in third, Liam Slock in fourth, Basset fifth, Delaplace sixth. We have Jean-Louis Lenis in seventh, Mathis Lebert in eighth, Mathis Louvel in ninth, and Alexandre Delettre from Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93 in 10th place. Trying to work out if that's a drone going across the road or whether it's a piece of rubbish being thrown by the wind.
Sixième, Anthony Delaplace. Septième, Jean-Louis Lenis. Huitième, Mathis Lebert. Neuvième, Mathis Louvel. Dixième, Alexandre Delettre. Onzième, Mathis Pasquez. Douzième,